Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back to campus. My name is Gina Borden. I'm the class of 2014 and the AABC reunion chair. It's so great to see how many of you are joining us, both in person and virtually. Thank you so much for being here today with us. It's now my pleasure to introduce the 8th president of Barnard, Sian Beilock, for her final State of the College program. President Beilock has led Barnard since 2017, and we are so glad to have had her at the helm. Please join me in welcoming her.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Gina. It's really such a pleasure to be here today to celebrate reunion with all of you, whether you're here in person, it's great to see such a full house, or joining us virtually. Before I start today, I want to thank Gina Borden, who is Reunion Committee Chair, for all of her hard work making this weekend so special for everyone. Gina is a member of the class of 2014, as well as a former member of the Alumni Relations team, and this is her first reunion as committee chair. So I'd like to take a moment to recognize her for her inspired leadership, her infectious enthusiasm, and the thoughtfulness she has brought to every aspect of this weekend. I also want to take a moment to recognize Amy Veltman, who is the president of the Alumni Association at Barnard College. Amy's term as president is coming to an end, and I just want to commend her for the extraordinary job she's done representing the alumni community, and especially the way she's brought her characteristic humor and good cheer to the role during the most challenging days of the pandemic. Let's do another round of applause for Amy. Gina and Amy are two shining examples of what makes our community truly singular. They are brilliant at what they do, and they care for others. It's a tight-knit community that is focused on the goal of empowering women and underrepresented voices, and I believe, having overcome the challenges of the past several years, we are stronger than we've ever been. Of course, this is bittersweet for me, as it is my last reunion as president of Barnard, but I'm so excited to use this opportunity to tell you a little bit about where we've come over my presidency, and then take the opportunity to really have a conversation with President-elect Rosenbury as we usher in what I know will be a next amazing, great phase of Barnard. So it was really about 6 years that I stood before so many of you here, not in this room, but across the street at Riverside Church during my inauguration, and I laid out some of our top priorities for the institution. One was to raise our eminence in STEM to parallel our renown in the arts and humanities. We'd always had amazing science and technology programs. I don't think people knew about it as much as they should. A second was to promote lifelong learning and success, to make sure that it was clear that Barnard wasn't just about 4 years, it was about a lifetime, and to make sure our students were equipped for wherever they were going, from academia, government, nonprofit to industry. A third was to continue to make our community more diverse and inclusive. Without differences of opinion, different lived experiences, you don't get the best outcomes. And with that required financial support for aid and other aspects of a student's education. And finally, a fourth was really to empower our whole campus, from students to faculty to staff to alums, to focus on well-being. Well-being wasn't something that just sat next to academic excellence, it really was a precursor to it. Now, no president's term is predictable, and mine has been no exception. We had a once-in-a-century global pandemic, a long overdue national reckoning with systematic injustice, new stresses by technology and political shifts. But I will say that the past 6 years, I think, have brought us closer together. We have come together as a community in our moments of deepest stress and need, and I'm so proud of what we've achieved together. I just want to highlight a couple of them because it really is important to know how strong and special Barnard is today. In the sciences, we've made enormous strides in recognizing Barnard as one of the powerhouses of producing women in STEM. Today, over a third of our graduates are math and science majors. So exciting. And a third of our math and science majors are underrepresented women, which is so fantastic. We are tracking well ahead of the national average. Our students are going off to med school, graduate school, PhDs into industries at rates we have not seen previously. And I will have you know that Barnard is in the top 10 of all institutions per capita, per our size, of producing women who go on to get PhDs in the sciences. The top 10, this includes MIT, this includes Caltech. It's very amazing. We showcased our strength in science last year during Barnard's Year of Science, where we took the opportunity to continue to tell our community and the world about what we were doing in this area. And it's really now culminating with our ability to raise record-breaking funds to renovate and expand Alshul Hall. It will be renamed as the Roy and Diana Vagelos Science Center, the R&D Science Center, and we're so excited about that. So that's what we've been doing in STEM, and all the while raising our eminence in the arts and the humanities and the social sciences. We know that what Barnard does is teach students how to think, not what to think. That's a really important distinction, and that requires a true liberal arts degree. I'm proud that all of our scientists take a full year of writing. We all need to know how to write, and all of our writers and arts and humanities majors also are required. We're one of the very few schools in the country that require them all to take classes where they think digitally, technology, and computationally. It's very exciting. So in addition to thinking about what students do while they're on campus, we've also really been focused on lifelong success, where our students go after they leave, and how we at Barnard can provide a place, especially for women as they come in and out of the workforce with all other demands, to think about lifelong learning. We celebrated in January our 5th anniversary of Beyond Barnard, which is our one-stop shop for career advising, internships, fellowships, summer research, and thinking about next steps across academia, industry, nonprofit, and government. We put out Beyond Barnard with a few ideas in mind. One, and I think I would bet that most of you would attest to this in this room, that your major doesn't equal your career path. And that you shouldn't have to know what you want to do to go get help. We didn't want people to say, oh, I want to go to law school and go to the pre-law dean. We wanted students to say, I don't know what I want to go do. Maybe they wanted to go into a different field or thought an internship was really not fun, and so they changed their mind. We love that. And so we put Beyond Barnard out there as a place, this one-stop shop where students could go. And not only does your major not equal your career path, and you shouldn't have to know what you want to do before you go get help, but the final one, that this is for life. We have about a quarter of our users of Beyond Barnard are alums, from a few years out to 50 years out to even farther. And it is designed to be a place that connects alumni and students, that allows students to start thinking about differences in career paths. I'm pleased to say that about 90% of our students go to Beyond Barnard while they're here, almost everyone. That's pretty high, I would say. And we're now able to say things like within 6 months of graduation, between 90 and 95% of our students are employed or going to graduate school or professional school. This is amazing. The other 5% are out writing their first novel, so we let them go. But the idea that there is a return on investment here, that this is a big investment of time, of resources over 4 years, and that we're here to help students and our graduates as long as they want our help. Another thing that Beyond Barnard has really been able to do is help us connect with Columbia in really meaningful ways. We've started and amplified several of our programs where students get a bachelor's at Barnard and a master's at Columbia in 5 years. We now have them in engineering, data science, public health, international relations, computer science, and more. It's really great to have those connections. Our students love it, and Columbia is clamoring for our students in these fields. We also now have programs at the law school, with the business school. Really exciting to have those connections. So we talked about the sciences, we talked about Beyond Barnard. I also mentioned the importance of diverse and different voices at the table, and we've done a lot to both continue to attract record-breaking numbers of diverse students. Over half of our class now identifies as women of color. We are at record-breaking numbers in terms of Pell students, so students who are the lowest income. And we've done so many things to help enhance and move forward how Barnard is thought about as a community. There's still a lot of work left to do. This is not something that's done, but I'm so pleased to say we have great folks in place to work on this. We have Dr. Jennifer Rosales, who's Barnard's Vice President for Inclusion and Engaged Learning and our Chief Diversity Officer. Barnard is really unique in that we don't just have a Chief Diversity Officer. Dr. Rosales sits over our Center for Learning. It is at the heart of what we do in the classroom. Again, just like well-being, we don't think about this as something that sits next to the classroom. We think about something that is part of the classroom. Dr. Rosales has been amazing in that way, integrating, helping faculty teach in different ways, integrating how we think about different voices and belonging into what we do. We also developed Access Barnard, which is a one-stop shop for students who are first-generation, low-income, or international to have familiarity with American higher ed in a way that they might not have from their families. The whole idea was really to reduce barriers to entry, and we're so excited about that. And as I mentioned, we have an amazing diverse class. I'm so pleased to say that this year we'll welcome the most diverse class in Barnard's history. This fall, they will come from 47 states, 40 different countries, over half identifying as women of color, and 21% of them will be first in their family to attend college. These are pretty exciting stats. And finally, just a note about wellness. Again, our young people are grappling with record amounts of distress, anxiety. This is something that's not specific to Barnard, but I'm really proud of what we've done, putting well-being at the center of what they do. You might see in Barnard Hall, we're breaking ground on the LaFrac Center for Well-Being, which will be focused on physical, mental, and financial well-being. We believe you need all three pillars to succeed. I'm so excited to do this. And we hope you come back when the center opens next year, as this will be a place not just for our students, for our alums as well. So I am so proud of what we've accomplished over the last 6 years, just really so amazing. I'm even more excited for where we're going. And I want to say that none of this happens without you, without your support, your time, energy, and your philanthropy. Barnard is a school that was founded on an idea, not an endowment. That is really an important distinction because we work hard for every dollar that we bring in. But with your help, we've grown our endowment over the last 6 years by 40%, increased fundraising by 50%, increased financial aid by 50%. And at the annual gala just over a month ago, we had 700 attendees who donated almost $3 million to financial aid for our students. So extraordinary. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping to grow Barnard to even greater and greater heights. And I'm so excited to watch what happens next, to always be part of the Barnard family. And it's been my pleasure over the last few months to work with President-elect Laura Rosenbury as she takes the helm. So many important things come from having different leaders with different perspectives, and I am so confident that Laura is going to continue to push Barnard to new and greater heights. So Laura, would you come up? And I think now I get to interview you, which is a little bit of a turn. I've been given strict microphone instructions. So I think it's all already going well. We've coordinated our outfits. That's the first and most important. And I know you've already read a lot about Laura, but in case you haven't, I just wanted to give you a little bit of what is really a truly impressive background. She's the first woman dean of Levin College of Law at the University of Florida, a position she held for over 8 years. Under her leadership, UF Law has risen through the national rankings, is now ranked one of the top 25 law schools in the country. Prior to her appointment at UF, she was vice dean and professor at the law school at Washington University in St. Louis. Prior to that, she was a litigator at Davis Polk and Wardwell here in New York City. She earned her bachelor's degree from Radcliffe and her law degree from Harvard Law School, where she was editor of Harvard Law Review. Laura is a nationally recognized expert in women and gender law, having published papers in leading journals and lectured at top law schools across the country. She was elected to the American Law Institute in 2010 and named a fellow of the American Bar Foundation in 2014. I can't tell you how excited I was to learn about Laura when I knew she had been selected as the next president. I think she is a perfect fit for the role and a perfect person to lead Barnard through the next many, many years. So I thought it would be great to get to know, all of us to get to know Laura a little bit more today. I've been getting to know you a lot, but please join me in welcoming Laura to the stage. So I promise we're going to open it up to questions from alums. One thing you'll learn, Laura, is that Barnard students, alums, parents, trustees, staff, they have lots of questions, always. And I summarized your background briefly, but I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your journey here.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Sian, not just for that kind introduction, but for all the time you've spent with me these past few months. And many thanks to the alums who served on the search committee and those who are on the board of trustees for guiding me these last few months. My first official day will be June 12th. So I finished my time at the Levin College of Law yesterday and got on a plane. You know, oftentimes people see me solely as a lawyer, sometimes, you know, as a business person. And I always smile at that because, you know, I grew up on a farm in northern Indiana. I never thought I would go to law school. I just wanted to explore the world and particularly beyond the 1,000 acres of our farm. And I was able to do that in part by going to Radcliffe, which rocked my world. I'm the first woman in my family to go to college. My father was the first person in our family to go to college. And he very much always pushed me to go to college. But my mom was always like, well, you can always just come back to the farm. So being able to go to Radcliffe was a dream beyond my wildest expectations. And I ended up studying women's studies just because I never knew women's history existed before I went to college, right? I had never thought about gender explicitly or identity explicitly, class, race, until I was at Harvard. And I didn't go to law school right away. I was trying to find my path. I did not have a Beyond Barnard to go to, but I ended up coming to New York about a year after I graduated from college to work at the National Office of Planned Parenthood. And it was while I was there, even though I was doing sort of, you know, I was doing some, you know, what they called at the time opposition research and some administrative work, you know, not law, not litigation. I began to see how many people at Planned Parenthood had law degrees, but they weren't in court. They were doing other things to make the world a better place. And so that's how I ended up going to law school. And I almost dropped out after my first year because I'm like, I'm not a business person. I don't know what's happening here. But I had a great mentor who ultimately became the dean of Harvard Law School, and she encouraged me to make law school my own. And ultimately, even though I did practice corporate law for a while, I started teaching to combine the parts of myself, to become a feminist legal theorist who studies the role of law in both constructing and regulating gender. And through that path, I somehow became a vice dean, a dean, and now president-elect of this amazing institution.
So I have to admit, when you got elected, I went and took a look at a couple of your papers. I was really interested in them. I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about your work as a legal and academic scholar.
Absolutely. As I started thinking about gender from, through the lens of the Equal Protection Clause, the work that Ruth Bader Ginsburg did starting in the 1970s here in New York through the ACLU's Women's Rights Project. But as I delved deeper, I realized that that form of liberal equality or constitutional equality was just one way of looking at the relationship between law and gender. And so that's when I began thinking in more complex ways about equality, substantive equality, how gender is not just existing, but is constructed by various forces, including law. And that led me to think about the ways gender is mediated through relationships, family relationships, friendships, relationships at work, even property relationships. So much of my work touches on gender, but also relationships. I've done a lot on the parent-child relationship, and particularly thinking about ways that we might look more expansively about children's interests, to not always view them as the bottom of a hierarchy between parent and child, but instead to think about their lives as children, not just as future adults. I've also thought a lot about why the law privileges marriage and marriage-like relationships over other forms of relationship, including friendship. This is something that's very deep in my heart. This is not a law reform project. I'm not saying the state should start regulating friendship, but we know. But I think we can learn a lot about how the law subtly might push us into certain types of relationships and give us freedom in other ways to think about other forms of relationship. So that's been my work. I've also, as I've become vice dean and dean, thought a lot about women in leadership, as I'm sure you have as well. And I think that's, another aspect of my work that I'll continue to think about.
That's great, and it just is such a perfect fit for Barnard. Talking about women in leadership, you were the first woman dean at Levin at University of Florida. Tell us a little bit about some of the highlights of your time leading the school, what you've learned, maybe what you'll bring to Barnard.
Absolutely. Well, I went to the University of Florida as a complete outsider. I had no ties to Florida. I had not been to Gainesville, where the university is located, until my interview. And I didn't even know that Florida's mascot was the gator, okay? So I was, but I knew that it had, a unique position as the best law school, the flagship law school in the third largest state, because Florida had been growing. When I interviewed, I had assumed that New York or Illinois was the third largest state, and I was quickly corrected that Florida was the third largest state. And as Florida was growing, they wanted to invest in higher education, and particularly the law school. And so I saw that opportunity and that potential, and was really excited to join. I will say I was a bit annoyed at first that they constantly said I was the first female dean. I was like, I'm a dean. But I soon realized that that was very important, at least to some segments of our alumni base, and certainly our student body. Like here, all of a sudden I was hugged all the time by female students and alums. But it also brought challenges, of course. I was perceived as young, even though I wasn't any younger than most male deans when they're starting out. And I think I was underestimated, as I'm sure all of you can relate to, at least at certain points in your career. But we were able to finally, together collaborate to really raise the profile of the College of Law, including by doing a lot of the things I've seen, Barnard do. We grew the applicant pool so we could continue to really recruit the very best students. We hired new faculty. We focused on getting our students into jobs. I should have called it like Beyond the Gators. But a very similar approach. And it's just been remarkable to see how the community has grown there. And like you, thinking about return on investment, wanting to make the law degree as valuable as possible for all of our students and alums. And part of that is measured by the US News rankings. And so we were able to go from 48 to now 21, 22 in the national rankings, but much more so, it's not just about a number, right? It's about the fact that we've been able to keep tuition low and increase financial aid like you've done here, while helping students achieve amazing outcomes. And I'm excited to continue to, focus on similar issues here, except in a place where it's not remarkable that I'm a female president.
I think on that note, we'd love to open it up for questions from the audience or questions that have been written in. Someone's going to tell me how to do that. Are folks raising their hands with microphones as well, or are we taking questions? Okay, so I think if you want to ask a question, we have microphones coming around, just raise your hand and we'll get you a question.
Hi and welcome. I loved hearing about all of the initiatives that were yours in the last couple of years or last 8 years. Would love to hear about some of the initiatives that you're thinking of for your journey here.
Well, I obviously have very big shoes to fill, and a lot of what I'll strive to do is to build upon the existing strengths while also being flexible, because as you pointed out, we never know what's ahead going forward. But I do think we could maybe particularly double down on some of the focus that you emphasized of having people with diverse perspectives and backgrounds come together in this unique place. I think dialogue across difference is so crucial at this moment in time for our society, for our democracy, frankly. And I think Barnard already has huge strength in that area, and we can continue to focus on that dialogue across difference. I also think there's clearly a really important role for Barnard as the premier women's college in the United States to play as women's rights are under attack, as freedoms we took for granted are now being challenged. And so I look forward to, working with the community here to include that in the focus areas, even though, I think just continuing the work would be more than enough.
Let me just say, these are great answers, but we can't expect Laura to know exactly where she's going yet either. She's in listening and learning mode, but I love both of those answers. Other questions? I think there's a microphone. Oh, one over here, and then we'll come here.
Hi, Abby Pariser, Barnard 67. So when you and I were looking at colleges, Radcliffe was there and you went, and I didn't, but I went here. So Harvard ate it up.
Yes.
How are you going to approach any kind of Pac-Man stuff from across the street? and keep us who we are and why we're here.
Well, obviously, I will fight tooth and nail to maintain the independence of Barnard. I'm still learning a lot about this unique and rather complex relationship between Barnard and Columbia, but I'm excited. Columbia will have a new president later this summer. Its first female president, and so I am very optimistic that we will be able to continue this great relationship while still maintaining our independence.
Oh, hello, thank you. My question was very similar to the last positor's question, but taking it a step further, since two new presidents of unknown gender, just kidding, are stepping into their roles, what opportunities, what challenges might you foresee, because you're both creating what could potentially be a new world?
Right. Well, I'm an optimist, so I think about the possibilities. It's also the fact that we're two outsiders coming in that I think could be difficult at times. We're going to have to rely on the people who really understand Barnard and Columbia. Yet at the same time, when you come from the outside, you often ask questions about things that are taken for granted. So I'm really optimistic that together we can, build upon strength, maybe let go of some things that we don't need to hang on to anymore, and just really focus on the new world. We have a hand here.
As we get to know you as an incoming president, of course, you'll go through a process of determining your own strategy and doing your research, but would love to just better understand your leadership style and how that's been both in your prior role and the one before, also in academia, so that we can think about how that might apply to Barnard.
Right, that's a great question, and you're absolutely right. I'm going to be spending the first several months just trying to get to know as many people as possible, listening to people's views of what really works here, and what has made Barnard so unique and strong over these past few decades in particular. But also to hear about, people's hopes for the future and things that might evolve that we might not have even imagined a decade ago. Certainly, society is evolving rapidly with the rise of AI and other technological innovations, so we all must evolve to stay competitive. I learned over the last 8 years that collaboration is the key to making progress. And I've been reflecting a lot on that as I leave the law school, and just the amazing teams we were able to build over the 8 years. I'm a big believer that you need people with different perspectives at the table to create, creative friction. And that's how you ultimately are able to push to do something truly unique and innovative. You also, though, have to have room for the possibility of failure. You can't be so risk averse that you don't try anything. So one of my mottos, and this says a lot about me, is we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. That shows I'm a bit of a perfectionist, that I have to keep reminding myself that. But that's also helped our team really innovate and try new things, some of which did not work. But we, as they say in the literature, failed fast and forward, and we tried something else, and we ultimately were able to move forward. So I assume I'll continue that collaborative, flexible leadership style here. But once again, I know Barnard is truly unique, and so I look forward to learning from all of you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, I think I'm being told that we have to wrap it up. So let me just do we have one more here?
Okay, one more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, this isn't really a question as much of a statement of not so much concern, just on my mind a lot. And that is, I think the progress that's been made in STEM is wonderful. Your background is in a professional academic environment or an academic environment preparing for a profession. I want to be sure Barnard remains a liberal arts school. And that does not exclude people who go on into the law or into STEM, but that we are always seen as a school that appreciates, values, and encourages the arts and the humanities.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree. And I've been so impressed to see the ways that Barnard has been able to build upon its strengths in STEM while also building its strengths in the arts and sciences, the humanities and social sciences. So I certainly want to continue on that path. I don't think it has to be either or. You know, it often falls into a binary, and we resist that binary. We will be doing both and.
Just have to remember the both and.
Exactly.
Support the both ands.
That will be my full intent, and I'm sure I'll have lots of ideas from people about how to do that.
So just a final question. What excites you most about joining the Barnard community?
Obviously the people, and you know, when I was on campus before finals began, meeting with the students just reminded me about the passion and vision and hopes of undergraduate students. I've missed that at law school. Sometimes the students are a bit jaded, right? They've given up on other ways to change the world, whereas the students I met are so committed to making the world a better place. And that's what I'm excited to continue to learn about, and then to see how all of you took your undergraduate selves and have been changing the world these past few decades. Thank you so much.
Well, I know Barnard is well poised and that you're going to accomplish tremendous things. And not only will you change this community, but I know as it's changed me. And thank you all for your support. And we're so excited to really be behind you 100%, Laura. This is an amazing community, an amazing institution, and we're so excited to see where you take it.
Thank you so much.